course, they are using now Chinese satellite tracking. This means that they know exactly where each U.S. naval vessel is. And not only that, they are tracking their communications as well. And because they are using Beidou, the Chinese system, they cannot be penetrated.
The U.S. has stepped into shit today, if I could put it bluntly.
Welcome back, guys. We are witnessing a fundamental shift in global power. What the mainstream media is calling a war is actually something far more significant. It's the end of the American military hegemony in the Middle East, and possibly the world. A lot of people have been saying that China isn't directly involved in this conflict, that it's just Iran acting alone, and China isn't helping Iran. But that isn't the truth. China is actively, openly providing the technology that will allow Iran to neutralize America's military advantage. We're talking about hypersonic missiles, unhackable satellite systems, and advanced radar that can track stealth aircraft. We're talking about the obsolescence of the aircraft carrier, the symbol of American power for the last 70 years. This is China's strategy, playing out in real time. So let's examine the evidence. We're going to show you exactly how Chinese technology is fundamentally changing the balance of power.
How capable is Iran in, I wouldn't say sinking, but at least damaging the Lincoln or the Ford?
They can. And they are saving it for the right moment. Because this is something that will freak out the American industrial military complex from A to Z. This is the nuclear option, much more than Hormuz. Can you imagine sinking a U.S. aircraft carrier? Because
how would they do it? Is it with the hypersonic?
Let's look at the symbology, Mario. That's the end of the American superpower. Period. For the whole global South. Obviously, the Chihuahuas in Europe will come up with some sort of stupid explanation out of Brussels, but this is what the 90% of the planet will see it. They could use equivalents that they already have of the Chinese carrier killer missiles. And they have Iranian versions. And don't forget that the southern shore from the Persian Gulf to the Sea of Oman, all that stretch from Bandar Abbas to Chabahar, all the way to the Iran-Pakistani border. I traveled that area a few months ago, for instance. It's crammed with Iranian missiles pointing to the Persian Gulf and the Sea of Oman. Obviously, that explains why the Americans wouldn't dare getting even on the margins of the Sea of Oman, because they know what could happen. And of course, they are using now Chinese satellite tracking. This means that they know exactly where each U.S. naval vessel is, and not only that, they are tracking their communications as well. And because they are using Beidou, the Chinese system, they cannot be penetrated. So this is part of the long-term project, because the long-term project implies that U.S. naval assets have to be away from the whole Persian Gulf, as well as the military bases. So they're starting with the military bases. The next step will be the U.S. Navy vessels. So, this is it's step by step, and it's a very logical progression when you look at it and you try to figure out, okay, what do they really want? It's very, very logical, and it's the way Persians think. Persians are extremely logical, and that's why for them, they cannot even process the fact that they are in the middle of negotiations and suddenly they get bombed. It doesn't make sense. For them, it doesn't make sense. They take logic and diplomacy very seriously.
For decades, the American aircraft carrier has been the ultimate symbol of power, a 100,000-ton behemoth that lets Washington park a small air force off anyone's coast. But that era is over. He asks, how would they do it? Is it with the hypersonic? Yes, it is. The U.S. spent $1 trillion on its F-35 program, a plane that can be tracked by advanced Chinese-made radar. While China was perfecting missiles that travel at Mach 15, Iran's Fateh 2, built on this technology, isn't just fast, it's a hypersonic glide vehicle, meaning it can maneuver on its way to the target. That expensive Aegis system on U.S. destroyers, It's designed to hit ballistic missiles traveling in a predictable arc. It is fundamentally incapable of stopping a weapon that can dodge. And how does Iran know where the carrier is? He mentions Chinese satellite tracking. He's talking about Baidu. Unlike the American GPS, which the US can degrade or turn off for its enemies, Baidu is a secure, independent system. It gives Iran, and anyone else plugged into it, a crystal clear, unhackable picture of the battlefield. There's nowhere for a carrier to hide. Sinking a carrier isn't just a possibility, it's a strategic inevitability. It's the cornerstone of China's anti-access area denial strategy, which they've now exported. It's the end of the American superpower. And as the man says, the whole global South is watching.
这是美军在中东规模最大、功能最核心的军事基地——卡塔尔乌代德基地。基地距伊朗仅有300公里，能容纳约1万美军，拥有2条约3800米长的机场跑道，能让包括 B-52战略轰炸机、C-17运输机在内的美军主力机型正常起降。配有数量众多的加固弹药库和航空油库，在停机坪可见大批加油机、运输机，还有少量直升机。乌代德基地拥有完善的防空设施，其爱国者导弹发射架指向伊朗方向。这是位于巴林的贾法勒海军支援基地，它是美军在中东的海上心脏，也是美国海军第5舰队司令部驻地。该基地距离伊朗海岸近200余公里。基地内可见美国独立级滨海战斗舰、英国23型护卫舰、巴林佩里级护卫舰等10余艘大小舰艇。这是美军在中东规模最大的陆军基地，位于科威特首都南部的阿里斯坚军营。它离伊朗就更近了，仅有100余公里，最多能容纳13500名军事人员。军营内拥有大量坦克、装甲车等重型装备，停放着上千辆作战级运输车辆，是美军应对所谓伊朗威胁的关键前沿基地。这是位于阿联酋的载夫拉空军基地，是美军在波斯湾南岸的核心空中据点，距霍尔木兹海峡约200公里。该基地拥有2条3700米长的跑道，配备超大型航空油库、大量加固机堡和弹药库，停机坪可见多架 A-10攻击机和无人机。不远处的防空导弹阵地部署爱国者防空系统，同样，这里的发射架也指向伊朗方向。这是位于沙特阿拉伯的苏丹王子空军基地，它处于沙特首都利雅得东南约80公里的位置，能辐射红海、波斯湾2个方向。该基地拥有2条4000米跑道，可以看到机场中部停机坪有大量的加油机和运输机，机库外还有一架 F-15战斗机。基地外，爱国者防空导弹发射架也指向伊朗方向。不仅如此，美国在约旦也有空军基地，这是穆沃费格萨勒提空军基地，它距离耶路撒冷约150公里，距离伊朗边境约900公里，拥有2条3000米长的跑道和完善的战机维护、弹药储存设施。它是美军在中东的关键前沿作战枢纽。在停机坪中可以看到 F-35、F-16等战斗机，还有 C-17运输机和无人机。这是美国与土耳其合用的英吉尔利克空军基地，也是北约在中东的重要支点。这里储存的约50枚 B-61战术核弹，使该基地兼具战略威慑与快速打击能力。这是美军在叙利亚的核心前沿据点坦夫基地，它位于叙利亚、伊拉克、约旦3国交界处，扼守 M2 高速公路咽喉，控制伊拉克至叙利亚的陆上交通要道。该基地以特种作战和反恐为核心任务。纵观以上，我们可以看到，美国依靠遍布中东的军事基地体系，深度介入中东地区事务，构筑起强势的区域影响力。美伊局势究竟将如何发展？关注中国军号，我们将持续跟踪。
This is the moment that sent Western media into a frenzy. China Military Bugle, an official Chinese state media outlet, released high-resolution satellite imagery of every U.S. military base in the Middle East region. The post was direct, satellite images with detailed information. The U.S. military buildup in the region encircling Iran is clear. This wasn't a leak. This was a deliberate public demonstration by the Chinese state. They used their own satellite technology to map out the entire American military presence in the region and then broadcast it to the world. That's not espionage. That's a message, a very clear message. Chinese military analysts understood it immediately. They called it a demonstration of the strength of a nation and an enterprise. And they're right. This is China saying to the world, we can see everything America is doing. We have the technology. We have the capability. And we're willing to share this intelligence with anyone who needs it. This isn't about giving Iran a secret list. The Iranians already know where the bases are. They live there. This is about showing the entire global south that America's military dominance is transparent, exposed, and vulnerable. It's about showing that China has a technological superiority to monitor every move the US makes, and the confidence to broadcast it openly. This is what a rising superpower looks like. China isn't hiding in the shadows. It's operating in plain sight, showing the world that the age of American military secrecy and dominance is over.
The U.S. has stepped into shit today, if I could put it bluntly, and we don't know what will transpire. Maybe they'll kill a lot of people in the next few days and declare a great success. Reportedly, they've killed 40 schoolgirls already in a bombing outside of Tehran. But there's no way that it can actually achieve strategic objectives in the long term. The United States itself is not stable enough to achieve that. Trump is a highly unpopular figure, of course, a profoundly deep, polarizing figure. His approval rating will fall for sure in the coming months, though sometimes with an attack it blips up. I don't even think that will happen here because the American public was steadfastly against this. We're entering our own elections in November that Trump may try to subvert because he is openly talking about federalizing or nationalizing the elections, which would mean massive fraud. So this is a very unstable and a trigger or a fuse, to say it better, a fuse was lit that will have consequences of war in many regions of the world.
The U.S. stepped into shit today. Couldn't have said it any better myself. This nails the internal rot at the heart of the American empire. Jeffrey Sachs points out that the American public is against this war. Polls show only a pathetic 25% of Americans support strikes on Iran. The country is deeply divided, led by an unpopular president, and has zero appetite for another pointless war in the Middle East. The empire is crumbling from within. This is the difference between a rise in power and a decline in one. China has a unified population and a clear long-term strategic vision. It's focused on building infrastructure, lifting its people out of poverty, and creating a multipolar world based on mutual respect. America, meanwhile, is a dysfunctional mess, lurching from one self-inflicted crisis to the next. While America is busy tearing itself apart, China is busy building the future. And that future involves a world where the US can no longer start wars with impunity. The weakness and division you see here, it's a symptom of a dying empire.
I'd like to thank the glorious Chinese military for providing us such high-resolution satellite images of the shit ship itself. This is the new age. America can't hide what it does. And I think that's the best part. It's laid bare for even the dumbest of our citizenry to look at and go, why is my tax money being spent on that? Why is there a $13 billion, fifth of a mile long aircraft carrier with billions of my tax dollars invested into it? What is that doing to materially help me? Exactly. Nothing. There's no benefit to you. There's a lot of benefit for the ultra-wealthy, because as they expand, as they profit from more and more businesses, as they acquire more and more assets, they need to colonize new markets. For a very long time, Iran has not allowed the United States to monopolize its markets, exploit its people for their labor, and tear out the copper wiring in the walls, so to speak. This is also one of the many reasons they hate China. China developed its productive forces, so its ability to make stuff, to a point where the United States can no longer govern it. And that deeply frightens America as the country that has spent the last well over a century stomping on everyone to cement itself as the global dominator.
That's a very good question. Why is your tax money being spent on that? He's looking at the USS Gerald R. Ford, the $13.3 billion aircraft carrier, and seeing it for what it is, a giant floating coffin. It costs $6.5 million a day just to operate this thing. For all that cash, you get a weapons system that was designed for a world that no longer exists. It's a relic of an era when America could project power without consequence. Now it's a target, A big, slow, expensive target that is horribly vulnerable to the cheap, fast, and smart missiles that China has pioneered. This is the genius of China's strategy. Why get into a dollar-for-dollar arms race with a country that prints the world's reserve currency? Instead, they changed the rules of the game. They invested in asymmetric technologies that make America's expensive toys irrelevant. For the cost of one F-35, you can build a whole swarm of drones. For a tiny fraction of the cost of one aircraft carrier, you can build enough hypersonic missiles to send it to the bottom of the ocean. He says this benefits the ultra-wealthy, and he's right. But it's more than that. It's about maintaining a dying system of global control. China's rise represents a different model, one where nations are free to choose their own path, free from the threat of American bombs and sanctions. The USS Ford isn't just a ship. It's a symbol of a world order that is rapidly fading into history. And China is holding the pen, right in the next chapter. So let's recap. The Western media wants you to believe that this is a simple story of China propping up a rogue state. The truth is far more profound. This isn't about a proxy war, it's about the end of an era. What we're witnessing is a live demonstration of a new global reality. A reality where a nation's sovereignty is no longer determined by how many aircraft carriers the US has parked off its coast. A reality pioneered by Chinese technology, from unhackable navigation systems to unstoppable hypersonic missiles, that has rendered America's trillion-dollar military obsolete. The American empire is a paper dragon. It's broke, it's divided, and its weapons are relics of a bygone century. That's the reality check for today, guys. Do you think the US can adapt, or is the empire already over? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you appreciate this kind of analysis that cuts through the imperial propaganda, do me a favor and smash that like button. Subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next dose of reality. The world is changing. Don't get left behind. Until next time. Bye.